Good morning, Tuesday morning, May 19th, 2026, House Transportation. We have our ledge council in the chair. There is an amendment from Ways and Means for our miscellaneous motor vehicle bill. It is short. It is in your email. Damien will probably bring it up on the screen as well and walk us through related to, we had heard some stuff about jet aviation fuel reports, or maybe it doesn't label that specifically, but welcome and happy Tuesday morning, and it's all yours when you're able to get up and running.
Great. For the record, I'm Damian Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel. Just pulling up the amendment here. So it is not specific to aviation fuel.
My bad.
No, that's okay. That's really what we're getting at. But just in case the requirements change, we've left it broader. So in 32 VSA 3102, it basically provides the exceptions to the confidentiality requirements around tax information for the Commissioner of Taxes and the Department of Taxes. So that's where we get into sharing tax information. So this would add new language that would provide that the Commissioner of Taxes can share with the Agency of Transportation or disclose information related to tax revenue generated on the premises of airports in the state if it's necessary to demonstrate compliance with FAA grant funding requirements relating to airport revenue. Right now, that's aviation gas or avgas and jet fuel. If at some point in the future, federal law changes and it has to be like sales tax on other goods sold at airports or something like that, this would still allow it. And it is for the limited purpose of complying with FAA grant funding requirements. And AOT by law, it's not shown on this page, but in that same section, anyone who receives tax information from the Department of Taxes is subject to all of the same confidentiality requirements as the Department of Taxes. So AOT staff who receive this data for purposes of grant funding would not be allowed to share the data with third parties outside of that. They're limited to the statutory purpose here, unless we provide that this data could be shared with airports in the future. We would have to make that change. So otherwise, this is subject to treated as confidential information. There is a significant penalty and fines for staff who share that information, including loss of their position with the state and a fine. So it is one of our strongest confidentiality requirements in statute on this information.
This request came from our Ways and Means Committee and originally came from.
It came from AOT to the Ways and Means Committee because they wanted to. My understanding is there were discussions ongoing with the Department of Taxes where each year they had to enter into a memorandum of understanding in order to comply with FAA reporting requirements on the grants. And the solution that they came up with was simplifying it in statute to hopefully reduce the amount of work that goes into it with staff in order to get a waiver for compliance with the FAA requirements. And so this would provide that here in statute. And so AOT made the request. Department of Taxes testified next door and said that they are okay with the change in the statute and that this won't actually change the information that would be shared, but it just memorializes it in statute and sets out all the confidentiality requirements and so forth in statute. So they're in the, and we, as you can see, this is the 25th item in the list. There are 24 other items here where and this is the Commissioner of Taxes may share this information subject to requirements and so forth as necessary. And so we've provided this in other instances where there are information reporting requirements for compliance with like 3 squares BT and other things like that, where you need tax information to prove income or something else.
All over state government.
All over state government. Yeah. Yeah.
And you had said, we've been getting, the AOT's been getting this information, they gotta go through.
That's my understanding, is that they've been going through a very complicated process to get this information, and this will hopefully help simplify that a little bit. So,
Primarily, they get it for the federal government when they're doing grants or something.
right, so the federal law requires that funding from state revenues from aviation gas and jet fuel, taxes on those have to be used for aviation purposes. And then when you're doing FAA grants, you have to show that any of those revenues are then being rolled into that. And so this will help them with that, with fulfilling those requirements for the FAA.
Representative West?
Yeah, apologies for being late, Damien. So this is added language to kind of clarify the confidentiality of tax information.
It's to clarify that within the confidentiality of tax information, the Department of Taxes can share that information with the Agency of Transportation, so that the Agency of Transportation can fulfill its disclosure requirements with the FAA.
Okay, and it's specific to sales taxes,
It's
Um,
taxes
fuel
at
taxes?
tax revenues from airports, so taxes charged at airports. So right now there's sales tax and there's taxes on fuels. My understanding is that it's the taxes on fuels that we're concerned about right now. We have drafted the language broadly to cover other taxes at airports, just in case there's either a tax that comes in the future that would be subject to the federal reporting requirements and the federal requirements around how that revenue can be spent, or in case the federal law changes. So we don't have to go back in and update this every time that happens.
And these are, this is taxing, are they fixed base operators? Is that what they're called? The entities that are at the airports are actually running?
The jet fuel sales?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are revenues from them. And then there, again, this is drafted broadly, so it's any airport related taxes, just so that if we have a change in the future around what needs to be reported and what tax revenues can be used where, we are covered in that. But yeah, right now you're talking about the FBOs that are providing jet fuel. There's also aviation gas, which is subject to I believe that's subject to the gas tax. And then jet fuel is subject to the sales tax.
It will cover anything that's generated on the airport.
Yes,
Any future
Right.
activity.
to the extent it's necessary for FAA grant funding.
Any other
Yeah,
side businesses that we don't envision at this point.
to the extent that that tax information is necessary to comply with the FAA grant reporting requirements, this would cover it, as long as it's generated on the airport.
Significant confidentiality requirements around, we have filings that are limited amount of people that, so it's limited amount of filers that participate.
Can't disclose the tax return information to anyone who's not, where the disclosure is not permitted by statute at this point, or covered by rule. And so and then violations of that are subject to significant penalties for state employees, including potential loss of your employment with the state, as well as a fine. So, I mean, it's about as stiff as it gets for a state employee penalty.
Some of this is done now, right? I mean, they're like collecting the information.
My understanding is they are doing it now, but it's a complicated and intensive process to get the permissions to get that information, and that the hope is that this will streamline. Yeah, I don't think this is going to change the information that is passing right now, but it will streamline the process. And
Trouble on the Ways and Means Amendment on S326.
Yeah, no, we'll concur to the proposal.
find it favorable.
Find it favorable. Yeah.
All those that agree, say fair. Representative Byrd? Are you good?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 803. Okay, thank you very much for that. Let's at least get a quick preview on the ANR. We may, as a committee, have to come back, depending on how floor works. We may come back in between the two floors to hear the rest of this. We're gonna just so you're aware of this. The ANR, my understanding, AC Natural Resources Attorney, in reviewing the final version of S 326, found an issue related to the inspections that was from the original language created all the way back in January, and would like to potentially have an amendment. So this is not work that we've done, nothing that we've changed, something from all the way back in the beginning related to inspections that would clarify that the DMV is not going to change emissions requirement. That's on the simplest level of it. We're just gonna make you aware of it, and we have to, we'll come back in between. We're not gonna vote on it this quickly in Russia, but I want to be clear that we just got this at the end of last week, and it goes all the way back to the original language that started in January. So it's not work that we changed, but they found it and they potentially would like to change. And I guess I'll throw it over to Dean so you can see it. He may have sent it out to the kids.
Just sent it to the chair and to Gabby. I don't know if Gabby's had a chance to post it
Yeah,
yet.
we're gonna get it to you. I hope you're aware of it, and we'll come back as a committee.
It's pretty straightforward. So what it would do is at the end of the inspections rulemaking section, it would just add a new subsection that says nothing in this section shall be construed to permit the Department of Motor Vehicles to amend the rules relating to emissions inspections for motor vehicles. That's under ANR's jurisdiction. Rachel Stevens, the counsel for the Air Quality Division, found is that if you read the language broadly in that, it does imply that the focus would be on safety, but we have federal requirements for the emissions inspection. And so we need to get federal permission before we can change those requirements. So in order to avoid putting us in a position like New Hampshire, where they repealed their emissions inspection requirements and then got sued and got an injunction to force them to continue those inspection requirements from the federal court. This will just keep that the same unless and until we ask them to seek a change to those requirements. So, and part of the reason we have to have these is just because of where we are in the country. Everyone else's pollution flows over where we are, so we're subject to stricter air quality requirements than other parts of the country, for better or worse. Forest fires, industrial emissions from the Midwest, power plants. So in particular, we have ozone. I was just looking on the coast of Maine, where my family's heading out this weekend. They're under an ozone warning today for the air quality. And you'd think this time of year, it's like, it's not
forest fires or?
No, ozone's generated. I forget how that's generated, but yeah, we have higher particulates here, but they have ozone today. So, and that's one of the issues in this part of the country. So they call it the ozone transport region. The ozone from everywhere else comes in here. So anyway, this would just provide that our intent is not to have those.
Yes, clarify to the DMV has been asked to make changes. They're gonna have to go through rulemaking, but they can't change the emissions rules. That's what this is about.
Yeah, and I spoke with Attorney Stevens this morning. ANR is okay with this language. But I'm sure they'd be happy to come in and say that on the record too. So I ran this language by them though, as I was.
Came from ANR, I mean, DMV.
This came from ANR. DMV, I think DMV would need to just take a look at this too.
And I did reach out to Deputy Commissioner and he was fine with it. We can have that set on the record. So I got an email.
I'll send the language to him as well.
Okay.
So we'll do a straw vote. Yes.
Right, yeah.
This will have to go before the bill.
This would potentially be an amendment between second and third reading. That would be what the plan was, to give you a chance to think about it, ask questions, see where we're at, and plan that we'll have to come back up here for a few minutes in between the floor sessions. So with that, we're adjourned for this morning and head to the floor now.